Start the video.
Ah, yes. Look at there. Hi, hi, hi,
Hello.
hi. All right. We did it. We did it. We did it. And I have at least 20% more confidence that we are actually recording this time than I
I-
did the last time. We
okay.
shall see. We do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we will get started. I am Shay Dunn, and I am with the Port Ready podcast. And I am
Yes.
super excited to have Reggie Freeman with me today. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and yes. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Reggie comes with extensive knowledge about the game of tennis. So,
Mm-hmm.
Reggie, why don't you share with me? Just give me a little bit about you, your background. What do you do? Tell me,
Mm-hmm.
whatever comes to mind first, as
Mm-hmm.
if we are just friends having a casual conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, good evening. My name is Reginald Freeman, and I'm blasted to be here with Shay tonight. Um, to and great that she's invited me to be on her podcast, and I hope it's successful. And
Thank
so
you.
we'll do everything that I can to spread the word and get people to help you out and join in whatever they can
Thank
do
you.
to contribute. Okay.
That's super
Um,
kind. Thank you.
yeah. So well, we met. We're tennis junkies,
Right on.
and so we met on the tennis court. And what do you think about maybe 10 years now or so, maybe?
Almost. Yeah, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
time flies.
Yeah.
And over that time, I think the first time I may have seen you was at McGee. And I
For
knew,
sure.
yeah. And and you actually appear in some of the pictures that I took of the tournament over there.
Oh, no
So
kidding. So
yeah.
you were a
Mm,
photographer for the
mhm.
tournament at that
Yeah.
time. Oh my gosh, then
Yes.
I didn't even remember that.
And I actually do have some pictures, and I'll make sure to send them to you because
Yay.
I didn't know you then,
Right,
and
sure.
so I'll make sure to send them to you.
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
yeah, and so I see people and be like, I know you from somewhere. Then you go back, and then all of a sudden
Right.
they're in the picture right there. Okay, well, go ahead with your next question.
Well, okay. So what does Atlanta tennis mean to you?
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you this: you can't go everywhere and do what we're doing here. Say, okay, I'm going to go to this part because I know there are going to be people there playing.
Right. Right.
And so, say 10 years ago, you knew an exact time where people were going to be, and you had people on the phone. You could say, okay, what are you guys doing? And we're a lot older now, and a lot of those people are not doing this like we were doing it back then.
Sure.
Health issues, and other people have moved on and things like that, so that
Hmm.
it shrinks and then it expands again, but you have to get connected in.
Hmm.
Most of my tenants in that time, I was living in the West End, and
Hmm.
so McGee was and Washington Park were convenient for me.
Okay.
And then and Trammell Crow and West Park or something like that over
Okay.
on that side.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a lot of places, little places, like 4 to 6 courts, and that's it.
I
And
see.
sometimes there's only 4 courts.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I love it here because they say it's the mecca of tennis because you can't go to another city like this and then say, okay, I'm going to go play tennis today and find some place to play.
Right.
And
Oh,
so,
yeah. And interestingly enough,
mhm,
when I was early in my tennis career, I
mhm.
remember, um, and gosh, the internet has grown, social media
Mm,
has grown over the course of that time.
yes.
So, resources were limited back in the
Hmm.
day, back in my
Yeah.
day, right?
Yes. Yes.
So now there are all these Facebook groups and,
Hmm.
different ways to identify other players, other people who
Hmm.
want to play. You
Hmm.
can actually just post something in a Facebook group and tell them, what playing level and what area or location that you want to
Hmm.
play, and you can find
Yeah.
someone. But
Yeah.
to your point, um, until I found or until Wade Walker found me,
Hmm.
generally
Hmm.
speaking, as long as it's dry
Miss people.
As long as it's dry and light out, there's probably somebody there playing.
Absolutely, yes.
Probably.
And court's full at top of that.
Right, exactly. Which may and there are what, 8 courts there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
We
that
call
means that, there's always people that will be able to play, and you'll find something kind of on your level, right?
yes, that's
Yeah.
the best part.
Exactly, and
Hmm.
so that's to me, that's such a blessing to have, and I don't
Hmm.
know that that is necessarily available. I mean, I've traveled myself, and you
Hmm.
always take your racket in hopes that you'll find some tennis somewhere, but
Yes.
usually you have to pay for it and you have to
Hmm.
arrange it in
Hmm.
advance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So we're lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know if we realize it or not, but I lived in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I grew up, and a lot of those people that taught me, of course, are not able to play anymore.
Sure. Hmm.
And I hate that fact about that. And so, and then in Charleston, there was a group, um, Augusta,
Hmm.
Charlotte, Fayetteville. These are all in North Carolina and Georgia. There
Okay.
used to be a league, and we would travel from city to city to
Mm.
play against that team. Uh,
Okay.
and so it's the part of the old Rainbow League, and then now they call it the Mahogany. And
Mm.
so, and it's a beautiful thing. This year's tournament is going to be each year a different uh, city hosted, and that's most of them are in North Carolina. This year it's going to be in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And
Wow.
so last year it was in Greenville. The year before that it was in Wilmington, and of course it was a cancellation in between. But
Okay.
but yeah,
Wow.
but we're
You're
fortunate. Yeah,
Yeah, you're teaching me some things because I
yeah.
had no prior knowledge of that league,
Wow.
the Mahogany League.
Yeah,
Okay. So tell
and
me a little bit more about that, please.
well, it's like I said, it's the cities, Wilmington,
Mhm.
Seagulls. I forget the name of the Greenville and Fayetteville teams, but they're
Mhm.
still active.
Mhm.
Charleston was one of the teams. These are cities that are always within 4 to 5 hours, not
I
too
see.
far away.
Yep.
Macon, Augusta, Savannah once had a team.
Mhm.
Um, um, let me see.
So approximately how big is the roster? How many people are in the
Oh,
league? How does a person join the league?
yeah, you have to be on one of those teams in order to play in the tournament.
Mhm.
Um, like I've been a lifelong member of the Seagulls from high school on to now,
No kidding.
and so and I'm it blows my mind. A lot of the people that I hadn't seen in 20 years
Right.
were at the tournament. It's like, holy smoke,
Like,
you are
look at
still
you.
playing this game, yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, look what you taught me,
Mhm. That's
and
amazing.
yeah. And then, like I said before, in Charleston, it's very rare. I don't know if I said it before that we get to shake the hand of the person that segregated the courts where we play
Oh
at in
my
Charleston.
gosh. Wow.
So and Mrs. Smith passed away maybe 4 years ago.
Mm.
Um, and it's amazing that group of people, what they had to go through. Now, when we go play, let's go and play.
Mhm.
Let's go play tennis.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Fayetteville, Winston-Salem, Raleigh, Durham, um, any of the major cities in North Carolina
Mhm.
and Georgia will have some remnants. Oh, sorry, and Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. Okay.
And so
Yes.
would have some remnants of those teams. And I'm trying hard. They're the North Carolina people are keeping it going.
Okay.
The South Carolina people are like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And so we're
Oh
trying to,
man.
and the Georgia people, there, a lot of them we have not found our replacements.
What
Mhm,
do you think that we can do to, advance the league? Do you feel like it's important? Is it
mhm,
necessary?
mhm,
What do you think is necessary for us to, keep bringing more Black people into the sport?
mhm. I would say we have to get them on the courts. We have to get the kids. Everyone has to find their own replacement.
Okay.
And
Wow.
that's a responsibility.
I
And
see.
so, and maybe there could be more than one,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there can be 20.
I see.
Um, uh, we had a passing of Coach Wink
Right.
last
Yep.
month,
Mm-hmm.
which was a tremendous influence on Atlanta tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and folks like that that has a connection with it.
Right.
And so all those coaches in Wilmington, the coaches in Greenville, we didn't have any juniors
Mm.
when we went. It's a Memorial Day tournament.
Okay.
So wherever it is, whoever is hosting, it's on Memorial Day. It's that weekend.
I
And
see.
we didn't have any juniors, and I was ashamed, and I was like, holy smoke. But there are kids that are playing
Mm-hmm.
in Wilmington, but they weren't a part of that. And so, and
I
I don't
see.
know what the politic is that are keeping them from joining.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't even remember how I ended up on the team. I just remember they said, okay, we're going
Just
to
walked
Charlotte.
on one day.
They said, we're going to Charlotte tomorrow morning. If you want to go with us, you'll be here at 7 a.m. And then we're going to drive to Charlotte. I have never been to Charlotte, North Carolina. I
No
was like,
kidding.
and that's before they had the high rises and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Independence Boulevard was downtown.
Mm. Okay.
was
Okay.
was the shopping district.
Yeah.
And so we played at Tuckasegee. I don't know if you're familiar with that area or not, but yeah.
No.
But that was the first place that we played. And then Fayetteville, Greenville, Winston-Salem, Raleigh, Durham, all those places like that. They all have teams and they have strong junior programs, and
Mm-hmm.
they're doing great. And so
Right.
I have to find a way to get down to Wilmington and 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 fuse it with some youth somehow.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a responsibility that I feel that's been passed on to me. And so I still get to play. The person that partially taught me how to play is my
Mm-hmm.
doubles partner.
Okay.
And so, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you've mentioned him before.
Hmm.
Talk to me about your coach, your teacher, and
Hmm.
how you got into it, what he means to you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Mr. Smith, there's always one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is it's in Wilmington. And it's just a professor.
Hmm.
Um, and he just retired actually.
Wow. Congrats
And
to him.
and the most, yeah. And so so the funny thing about that is that they're maybe 12 to 15 years my elder.
Hmm.
And so out of that group, he may have been the youngest one that was playing because we had a colorful group of guys. And
Hmm.
there was one, Lou, which I didn't know was one of my high school sweethearts. It was her father.
Wow.
And I never knew. And she's like, you know my father. I was like, where? How do I know your father? Because you play tennis and Wilmington, you have
Oh
to know
yeah.
my father. And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yes, that is crazy. And
It
so
really is
it's
crazy.
in a small world.
Mm.
And that's a beautiful thing because, that's the process of
Yeah.
tennis. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's a small world. And
It is
so,
a really small world.
hmm.
And honestly, to some degree, I wish it were a lot bigger, but
Hmm.
it's really nice and
Hmm.
warm and
Hmm.
touching or whatever that we have, this
Hmm.
really tight-knit community. We
Hmm.
have this bond,
Hmm.
amongst one another. I'm going to pivot just a little bit because I wanted to ask you about your game specifically. If there's any way that you can describe it, even if you have to identify a professional player that you would compare your game to.
So I actually came along with the Agassi at that time, was the flashiest guy. And I was like, wow, I want to hit the ball like that.
Yep.
And
Okay.
and so I just I copied him. I hit a lot of balls over the fence for a very,
Yes.
very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Okay.
hit a lot of balls into the net for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Back
Okay.
and forth until they started to go in. Because when we don't have, back then, all you could see was, they didn't have slow motion back in the, they wouldn't
Right.
show you that. You had to mimic that on your own. Okay, I'm gonna try this where he's doing this and that, follow from there. But yes, and then local player that I stole some stuff from, Mr. Washington was, and then Mr. Johnny would hit the ball 12 miles an hour, but he never
You
missed.
placed it well, I take it.
Every shot was in the court, 12 miles an hour. It doesn't matter where it was going, you had to hit the ball back. And that's where I got my consistency from. I don't know if you know Scott Ross or not, but he has an awesome backhand slice. And that's where I stole my slice from. And I mean, it's deadly.
Wow.
And so you piecemeal your game, bits and pieces of things that you can actually do. And
Sure.
so there are a lot of people out there that are trying to do things that they can't actually do. And which is sad, and it's a good thing. Don't tell them, they'll say it's not going to work, but you just keep on going. Because I know they were saying that about me. No, you can't. That's not going to work for you.
You don't have it.
No, they're going to take a whole lot of years.
Wow. So, okay, that leads to something. Leads to something completely different. So I'm sorry to.
They're all in the same subject. We're talking about tennis.
We're talking about tennis.
Yep.
So with that said, like I said earlier, everybody has their own strengths, right? Like for instance, me, I'm only 5'6". So, I'll probably never be able to serve like, some of the biggest servers. Because I'm just not tall enough, not big enough, not strong enough to make that happen.
I have to stop you. I'm sorry. It's not about how big you are. It's all technique.
It's all technique. I believe that. I really do. I've seen some really tiny children with great strokes of all sorts. So not just serves, but groundies and whatever, so I can concur that it is about technique. However, I guess what I'm saying is, modeling my game after, someone that I admire, like you mentioned, you have certain strokes that you've picked up from different players. It's not all one player.
Nope.
Yeah. So anyhow, what do you recommend, for an adult who may have picked up the sport as an adult? How does a person, a regular person who has a job, has a family or whatever, how do you identify what it is you want from the sport, and how do you really go about it?
Right. That's a million dollar question.
Right. If we knew that.
Yes. And so here's the good and the bad part about that. Is that a lot of well-meaning coaches end up with the wrong person.
Great.
And and they teach them things that they can't really. I see people now that they were taught to turn sideways and then turn, hit the ball and then do like that. But then the new change came in where it's a unit turn now. And so now you have this new person there saying, okay, am I going to do the unit turn and turn sideways? I say, no, you got to choose one or the other. And so that's the conflict. Is a lot of them had lessons in the back and in the past. And what we were talking about is how to forget what you already know in order to learn something new,
right?
Which is the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
And so, but like you said, it's just for the love of the sport that you have to keep coming and find your knack for the game. What you can do. Is this shot going to work for you? What method is going to work for you? And you'll have to keep searching that and find that coach you say that clicks with you and say, okay, this is my coach.
Mhm.
Okay, I can do what he's telling me to do, and I'm seeing results.
Yep. But I guess, what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that, it's really a personal choice.
Hmm.
And, there's more that goes into it beyond, exactly what each coach is teaching. And you and I
Hmm.
touched on that a little bit the other day when we were chatting. I was telling you that, some coaches, and there's nowadays, we're in the year 2023, there's the internet, there's a
Wow,
million
million
YouTube
difference.
videos
Yes,
and
my
all of that
gosh.
stuff. So,
Yeah.
all these coaches everywhere, unless
Hmm.
you get with somebody that, like I said, really speaks your language and kind of speaks into you,
Hmm.
that then, because who's to say that, the old methodologies no longer work? It's not
Hmm.
that they don't work. It's just that,
Hmm.
maybe some coaches identified something that may seem to work a little bit better or
Hmm.
work with more people,
Hmm.
but like I said, it's not that the old stuff didn't work anymore. Like
Hmm.
nowadays, everybody's teaching top spin, right? But, a lot of
Hmm.
people still hit flat and it
Hmm.
works
Hmm. Hmm.
extraordinarily well
Yeah.
for those
Yeah.
people that can execute it, those
Yeah.
people that have the accuracy.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's a good argument, to always be able to bring those things in with you. Like I said, my game is a hodgepodge of 100 different people that I've had contact with,
mhm.
and the coaches that a friend of mine, his name was Jason. He said whenever he heard a good coach, he would go sit and listen.
Mm,
You know, just listen to what he's telling the students to do. And I'm like,
okay.
wow,
That's a
yeah.
good
And
word, right?
and I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing I saw when I was in Charlotte was a coach. He had about 10, 10 students on the court.
Mhm.
And it was like a kung fu class.
Wow.
And he would say, racket back. It was like, yeah,
Mhm.
backhand, yeah, forehand, yeah, to the net, boom. And it was, I mean, it was like synchronized swimming.
Mhm.
And then the funny thing is that once you see those people playing tennis nowadays,
Mhm.
then you think back to, and I was a photographer at that, and I'm like, wow, look at that. And a lot of them, I would say 8 of the 10 went to play college ball. And
Wow.
that's Mr. Brown in Charlotte was a big influence on me as well, as far as my
Okay.
coaching.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the simplicity of his teaching, he said, I just want you to hit the ball.
Mm.
So after you hit the ball, then I'll tell you where I want you to hit the ball.
Mm.
And then after you hit the ball, where I want to tell you to hit the ball, then I'm going to tell you how hard to hit the ball there.
Mm.
And
Okay.
after you do that, then I'm going to tell you when and why you hit it there. And
Okay.
so that's the
I
and he
like
takes
that.
you, yeah, he takes you through those stages.
Mhm.
And at our stage in the game right now, I don't want to change your stroke if I'm coaching you.
Mm.
You're aware of all the different things that can do. All you need now is the where and when. Uh,
Mhm.
what happens after or what happens next is what you want to be aware of.
Yep.
And so that's the big thing. That that's now.
That
What?
I'm
Yeah.
missing. Yeah, it's
No, you have it,
it,
but it's just that you hadn't been exposed to it.
you have these moments where you're just enjoying the rally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, but maybe you're also at the same time like looking for an opportunity. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like taking a walk in
Mm-hmm.
nature, maybe
Yeah.
you're there because you want to clear your mind or whatever, but at a certain point, you start to notice more of your environment.
Detail. Yeah.
Yeah, more
The
detail.
small things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important part of everything that you're taught to do, your forehand, your backhand. And they say, what is a rally ball? You
Mm,
know, the simple language of that. And say, when I first came here, I had the slightest idea what they were talking about.
right.
And the guy said to me, he said, okay, what's our strategy? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, if they hit the ball to you, hit it back.
Yeah.
And so, and he's laughing the whole time that we're on the court. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is so funny? He said, that is the perfect strategy.
It
You
really
know?
is.
So
It really is. I tell you, do you know what your strategy is meaningless if you cannot execute it? So, okay, that said,
Mhm,
going back, it's like you get on the court sometimes with a doubles player or with a doubles partner, that is,
mhm, mhm,
and somewhere during the course of your time, your partner is nudging you saying, "Hey, did you notice this? And
mhm,
we should do that," and
mhm,
whatever. And
mhm.
for me, especially early on, it was a little bit too much information. I'm
Yeah.
like, all I'm trying to do is get the ball back over the net and in
Yes.
the court.
Yes.
And, and if I
I
can do that successfully, then I might have a
mhm.
chance to win. But if
Yeah.
I'm donating points because I'm
Mhm.
unsuccessful at executing my strokes, then,
Mhm.
I may as
Yeah.
well just,
Just go and have a seat. Yeah.
yeah.
And I've been in that situation.
Mhm.
If you can imagine, when I first came to Atlanta, I was nowhere near the player that I am now,
Okay.
honestly. Um, and so, and I had people telling me the same thing that you're telling me now, and said, okay,
Yep.
did you notice this? All right, hit the ball here, hit the ball there. You
Right.
should do it
Don't hit the
this
ball
way.
here. Don't hit it there.
Exactly. And I had the slightest idea what he was talking about.
Right.
But over the time, getting exposure to a friend of mine, the great Nate Mack,
All right.
and he would say, okay, your volleys are falling into the net because you're not holding your racket.
Yeah.
And he says, argue with me. And I said, okay. He said, now do what you've been doing. And
Mm,
now do what I'm telling you to do and see how many balls you hit in the court.
mm,
And it was an immediate day and night.
right.
And he was absolutely 100% right,
Yep.
because we're taught when we're stroking the ball to have a loose grip, but we didn't think to have a tighter grip when we're volleying, which
Right.
is, what we should do.
Yep. And
So,
sometimes a little counterintuitive, right?
mm-hmm,
Especially if because everybody starts by learning ground strokes.
yes,
I
yeah,
shouldn't say everybody, but
well,
most people.
yeah, I'm a baseliner by
Mm-hmm.
nature,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been forced into, because of the people that I play with, they're all net hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hint, hint. Um, and so what happens is that the net person, while the other one is serving, is the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you want them to do is, like, how that runner is on first base and he's aggravating the pitcher,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what you're supposed to be doing
Mm-hmm.
as the net person.
Wow.
They're
Yep.
supposed to ask you permission to hit the ball every
Mm.
time that they hit it. And you
Wow.
want the answer to say, hell no, sorry. But no, you can't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow you to hit it. And I want you to be as uncomfortable as possible.
Yep.
And so, and
Yes,
that's the
indeed.
person. Yeah, that's the net person's job. Is how they help the other person hold their serve.
Mm-hmm.
If all
Exactly.
the people are equal, and just get on their nerves. And I mean, but the further back you stand, the less of an aggravation you are to them.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. The less present you are, the
mhm,
less formidable you appear.
exactly. Hmm.
So yeah, I totally get it. And,
Hmm.
honestly, even if you don't have much of a net game, I
Hmm.
have noticed that, just being there and moving around a little bit and making
Absolutely.
eye contact,
Yeah. Yeah.
being noticed,
Hmm.
that, you know, I don't know, has great effect at times.
Yes.
People may pick up on, and oh my gosh, there is
Hmm.
so much to this game. I mean, I don't want to
Hmm.
hold you all night.
But
But
we're having our fun. And one last thing on it,
yeah.
I'm going to say, if you're playing doubles
Hmm.
now that you are and your level is increasing,
Hmm.
don't be a scarecrow.
Hmm. Okay.
So
All right.
what would a scarecrow be on the tennis
just
court?
just standing there.
And
Not moving.
letting the
Yeah.
birds take your buttons, every ball goes by, that's another button off of your jacket.
Mm.
And so that's the funny stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you said, we could talk forever, and nothing we would say would repeat itself.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the game is so interesting and so
Hmm.
complex,
Hmm.
even it's complex in singles, which is what we
Hmm.
see most of on
Hmm.
television, but
Hmm.
you know, doubles as this whole different element and layer
Hmm.
of complexity
Hmm.
that to me is really, really fascinating. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, it takes it
And
up a
another notch, yeah. And
mhm,
that's why when I'm hitting with you or whoever, I hit to a particular place on the court. I
mhm.
don't know if you noticed that or not, but those are all double shots.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah, and I love the fact that you mix it up a good bit.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Sometimes you'll hit a moon ball, a looping ball or
mm-hmm,
whatever, and sometimes,
mm-hmm,
a little bit flatter and
mm-hmm,
deeper or different angles,
mm-hmm,
and so it causes me to think, which as you know, I definitely appreciate,
mm-hmm,
but in the point you have limited time to think, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Sometimes we make our decisions before the ball is even struck,
Actually,
right?
you should.
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
honestly, that's something that I wouldn't say I've done the entire time,
Mm-hmm,
probably just for me started a couple of years ago.
mm-hmm,
I would make a decision very early, like,
mm-hmm,
okay, I'm returning serve.
mm-hmm,
I don't care what serve is given to me. If I
mm-hmm,
can, I'm, lobbing the net man.
mm-hmm,
Or if I can, I'm going to hit it deep cross court.
mm-hmm,
Or, if it's a decent enough serve, I'm going to drop the server. I'm going to hit
mm-hmm.
a drop shot or whatever. So,
Right.
I just kind of make a decision early on. But
Mm-hmm,
obviously, when you're in my position and you're not that strong of a player, then you have
mm-hmm,
to, work with what you have. It's
mm-hmm.
like you're turning
Yeah.
lemons into lemonade, right?
That's all of us actually, and that's
Hmm.
all that we can do.
Hmm.
And like you were saying, you decided what's going to happen next. That's when you're dictating play. If
Hmm.
they hit me a forehand, I'm going here because of the positioning of
Yep.
them, and let the ball tell you where to hit it.
Right.
It's
Right.
going to create the opening.
Yep.
And so whether you're on offense or defense, from there, you all you want to do is get back to neutral.
Hmm.
And so your rally ball, if it's offensive or defensive, you want to be back to neutral. That's all you want to do when you're returning.
Yep.
And so, and after that, then you start to dictate play. You're going to hit the ball here to make them out of position to open up your next shot.
Hmm.
And so once you start doing that, you're an opponent
Yeah.
and someone that they have to think to beat.
Yep.
And so not just by luck.
Yep. And for me, and this could be a whole separate conversation, but
Mm-hmm,
what we talked about previously
mm-hmm,
was your approach to the
mm-hmm,
game.
mm-hmm,
And my approach is simply to mix it up as much as possible so that I basically am asking a lot of questions. I feel like as long as I'm asking questions, whether I win the point or lose the point or whatever, I still feel like I'm in control. you
mm-hmm,
know and I think that that's a crucial part of tennis. I mean,
mm-hmm,
let's I'll say this one thing and maybe we can, pick it back up in another conversation, but
mm-hmm,
I talked about how we are, we're all individuals and we have, our different thoughts, philosophies, mindsets, and everything.
mm-hmm,
And, I have over the course of time just naturally been, sometimes, a bit timid, a bit, introspective and,
mm-hmm,
self-doubting at times,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
And so, especially in doubles, that was part of the reason I shied away from doubles is because I
mm-hmm,
hated disappointing my partner, right?
mm-hmm,
If I'm missing, then it's costing my team points, not
mm-hmm,
just myself.
mm-hmm,
So, that said, I felt like And I still feel like if I can, my role, my responsibility is to be able to dictate, right? And as long
Mm-hmm.
as I am dictating, again, without regard to whether or not I'm winning the point or losing the point, as long as I'm out there doing what I chose to do, not being dictated to,
Mm-hmm.
then I feel like I'm winning. Like I
Yeah.
honestly don't
Mm-hmm.
even care. Like I won't notice the score line. I won't notice anything else. But it's when, I my least favorite, most frustrating times on the tennis court is when I have felt like either my opponent was asking more questions than I was, or dictating play better than I was, or my partner was limiting me in some way,
Mm-hmm.
And when I say, because I hesitate to say it that way, because I
Mm-hmm.
really hate when people say stuff like, oh, if it weren't for my partner, then,
Mm-hmm.
I might have had a better chance to win, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a team sport. So
Yes.
for me, it's always we. But the
Yes.
reason I put it that way is, sometimes stronger players will attempt to help by providing you with information or
Mm-hmm.
guidance on, how to manage and how to play. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it has taken me a lot of time to be humble about
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
just to say, all right, I have a choice here. I can
Mm-hmm.
either, accept this piece of information, accept this advice, take this advice,
Mm-hmm.
or not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
again, I guess I'm just kind of bossy, and I'm like, as long as I'm
Yeah.
doing my thing, then,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, tennis is all about me,
Right.
and if
Mm-hmm.
I haven't alluded to this before, I'll say it explicitly now.
Mm-hmm.
Tennis is supposed to be our outlet.
Mm-hmm.
This is our time away from home, family, work, the
All of it.
stresses of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, tennis itself, to the extent possible, shouldn't be stressful.
Right.
But
Hmm.
unfortunately, it can be if you
Mm-hmm.
allow it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, do you. I guess
Yeah.
that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. I'll say
Thank
this right
you.
here.
Yeah.
Um, is that, like you say, you want to dictate. Don't hit a ball that you don't know. Like the lawyer say, don't ask a question if you don't already know the answer. Right?
Hell yeah, I
And
like
say,
that.
don't hit a ball if you don't know what's going to happen next. So
Right.
that's how you dictate. Say you got,
Hmm.
when the professionals are hitting their spots, you
Hmm.
get two choices. You can hit it back to me, or you can hit it out.
Right.
Those are the choices. Anything outside of that is an accident.
Hmm.
And so
Absolutely.
that's, you just keep doing what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but I did notice that your game is going up a level. And so you just keep
Thank
doing what you're
you.
doing, and you believe me, and I know that you see it too. And I'm happy to say that my game is getting better.
Absolutely.
And so, and the strangest thing about that is I've not always been the best player on the court. There are places I go, I'm the scrub.
That
I'm
will.
happy to sometimes go and be the scrub and be the
Hmm.
person who's like in the way. And I'm like, wow. I told you about my little 45-minute lesson that I had with Inga from Czechoslovakia.
Hmm.
45 minutes, 1-on-1, including the warm up.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
That's good stuff though.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, but it's like every time you step on the court, it is a learning opportunity.
mm-hmm,
It's a fun opportunity.
mm-hmm,
And, I think you mentioned something similar to this earlier. It's just the
mm-hmm,
fact that, your goal should be to take in as much as you can, learn
mm-hmm,
something from it. And for
mm-hmm.
me, I just accept the challenge, or
Yes,
put it that way.
yes.
There's like I mentioned, there are a lot of people that'll say, oh, my doubles partner did this, or,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
would have had more fun if that had been going on or whatever.
mm-hmm,
But it's
mm-hmm.
like everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And
Yes.
if you are the stronger player, again, my humble opinion is then this is an opportunity for you to identify a way to put your partner in the best position so that they can play their best tennis. You know, they're not, especially today, they're not going to become as good as you are, no matter how
Not today.
information you give them,
Not
no matter how
today.
much guidance, you know, but they're not going to become better today. So you just have to work with what you got.
Yep, that is it. And you have to, like I say, you have to take that lemon and make some lemonade.
If you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's all up to you.
Yep. Well, listen, I am going to let you get back to your life. I am so very grateful that we were able to get together today and talk tennis. And you're always welcome on the Court Ready podcast.
I will be back. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, have a great evening. And I look forward to seeing you on the court soon.
Soon come. Catch up, Shay. Good night.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Court ready. Get court ready.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.